Okay, quite a challenge. The challenge, having heard so many beautiful stories, I could easily relate to any of them, and that is why I call it the clever note, grew whilst hearing and listening your presentations. And my challenge will be either to relate to them or to stuck to my structure that I brought along and not to lose my path. Okay, I'm happy to share the story of a project that my company started like 2.5 years ago. And it's about career path. As probably most of you will know, that is a challenge most companies face for the last years. On the one hand, that on the leadership side, you don't necessarily have the best leaders. And on the other side, you're losing experts because you made them become a leader, and you're losing an expert and win not quite the best leadership person. And yes, we started a project like many of you will surely have done as well. And I brought along the story along that project because when I started at EDAG, I'm going to say some 3 or 2 sentences about EDAG. That project was already set up. And over the work at that project, we learned that we had cultural impact, and that is the relationship to this story. Okay, some points in advance. You call it, or we call it, management summary. Career is not about doing the math, and I'm coming from an engineering company, and we heard something about that before. About 85% of our employees, and we are having 8,500 employees, are engineers. And they want to calculate the quality of leadership. And they want to calculate the potential an employee has. And that is not what career should be all about. So change all these engineers who were socialized 50 years in that company, how to approach development and leadership, and it'll change the whole mindset. The second thing is the power of transparency. Coming from a culture that was strictly hierarchical, and using information as a management device means not providing too much information because that'll make other people and employees clever, and we don't want to have that. Information is gold. And we learned we communicated, you should share information and not keep it to yourself. And as Jelena said in her introduction, it's about letting go of former habits. So how did we approach and what did we do? In the situation as of September 2018, when I was not part of the EDAG group, we had an employee survey. We thought it was a good idea to ask our employees, like all companies do from time to time. But what EDAG did was the main mistake you might do when acting in an employee survey. We asked, but we collected all the data and we didn't communicate about it anymore. Because, what a wonder, most of the results and the messages that we received were negative. So our former management back then said, we have to keep all that information by ourselves. And what they did, luckily enough, was they said, okay, what we see is that our market seems to change. We're working on engineering for the greater OEMs. So we don't produce anything. We have intellectual good. Our brains are our product, so to say. And our consultants work for Audi, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and stuff like that. So most logically, our business model is based upon the salary being under the salaries of, for example, BMW. And our consultants working for BMW would face the cultures on the client side, would then be kind of attracted and would be offered a higher wage or salary. So to speak, we're a platform for good, talented engineers to present themselves to the OEMs and then jump over, which means we have a high fluctuation. Do you say fluctuation? Okay. That is the one thing. So salary is an absolute area of tension. So we have to bond our employees to us emotionally, which is very challenging once you didn't do that for like 50 years. And what we were also told is that we had no career path. So the one thing that EDAG did in the past is gave all the good employees a car. And that is why all good employees want to have a car, because it was visible to everybody else you're a good employee. But combined to that was not a real career in sense of getting more responsibility or having more power to do something and leave your own footprint. But at least our management found out, okay, call for action, we have to do something, which is a good thing. And they initiated a project which is called Road. I think everybody of you heard of Road 2020 or 21. I faced all the companies doing about the same with the same claim, which is a funny thing. But the good thing is that all these messages from here were kind of cut off of this management project and filled into a new project, which was an HR project. And that is where our project I'm talking about came from. It's called EDAG, and that dealt mainly with something that I'm going to show you on this. We had like 4 pillars or 4 paths in different segments of our company. And to understand that slide, we have one segment that is, I'll call it segment A, then B and C. And we had different levels and different positions in different career paths in the whole company. And you can see that, for example, segment A had leadership, project, and sales, but nothing on the side of experts. The segment B had, in all the paths, something seemed to have been, and segment C, about the same. But the titles were completely different. You could find a head of, for example, on that level, but you could find a head of in the sales department as well. What I forgot to say is I'm the head of the people development department, but I call myself, I'd rather call myself enthusiastic enabler, because when I started, the EDAG group thought it was a good idea to take all those 3 segments together and to centralize administrative parts. I'm sure all of you had that in some kind of project as well. And then that's when I started at the EDAG group to 2019 with that project mainly. Okay, so what we found out is we had no clear structure, obviously. We had different titles, which isn't a good idea if you want to foster emotional retention and the thinking in career paths. And we had no development on employee level, which is a funny thing, because what I think none of you really realized is, talking about this, we only regard the management level. And this is 1,500 employees out of 8,500. And all the others are here. All the others are here. You're an employee, full stop. Nothing else. That's it. No differences. We had about 800 different job titles. If you were a manager and you said, I want to hire a moon buggy driver, well, go ahead. If somebody said, I want to hire a software architect, well, go ahead. Some wrote it in capital letters, some in smaller letters, some with full stop, some with a small line, Strich dazwischen. Whatever, we had about 800 different titles in the company. So mainly as an employee, where was the perspective? No, nowhere. So we found out, for sure, no feedback culture we had in the company because of the hierarchical approach that we had. Mainly the management made decisions and dropped them down. So there was no participation. It was 3 people sitting in their room, making decisions, and then enrolling them to the company. Transparency, I wrote it the same. I wrote it for that way in intentionally. Transparency is dangerous. It's not we don't want to have transparency. No, transparency is dangerous. Don't give any information out. We were very hierarchical. I said that before. We had no, and I mean no, cross-functional involvement in internal projects, if we had internal projects at all, because the company was then good when all employees were by the customer, and we were able to pay to. We need to. I'm at a loss for words right now. Die Kosten dem Kunden belasten. Arbeitszeit. Charge, yeah, thank you. Charge the working hours to the customer, and we needed to achieve something like 90%. If you're by the customer for 90%, you have 10% being in your own company. So we didn't really deal with our employees because we wanted to have them on the customer side. Thank you. And we would rather react to something coming from the outside than to initiate processes and stuff on our own. That is when the project EDAG was born. And what did the project EDAG deal with? The capital, the headline was, implement career paths. You don't just implement career path by setting up a project structure. When I started, those boxes were already filled, and there were topics within them. So for sure, we were dealing with job titles, with job descriptions. We didn't have any job descriptions. We were approaching a technical path. If you want to become an expert, what do you have to do to become an expert? We were dealing with requirements. What do you have to do when you want to become a team leader, or stuff like that? What premises do we want? We were dealing with people development because way back then, HR was strictly administrative. So dealing with compensation benefits and providing the paychecks, full stop. That was it. I took over a team of 9, and they were mainly socialized by booking trainings for employees. Full stop, nothing else. And by now we were approaching questions and challenges such like, if you pronounce or find experts, how do you develop them? Are there any skills they need to have? The same goes with leadership people. Do team leaders need certain skills? We were dealing with annual appraisal because I think it's a good idea if you want to develop people to ask them. Oh, you really want to ask them? Why not? How did you do it in the past? Well, we had something in our cupboards, took it out, and then we went to the people and said, hey, you're team leader by tomorrow. Oh, but I don't want to. Oh, you don't want to. There's the door. So there was no communication, no real, questioning and asking the employees, what do they want? If we had information about what employees might want in terms of development, it is a good idea to implement development plans. We were dealing with performance management, compensation, and to be honest, we are in the 3rd year. There hasn't been an international rollout yet. 5,500 of our employees are in Germany. And I think, first of all, we should get our work done here nationally when then approaching international hubs. So this is just to give you an overview of all the topics we were dealing with. And it's not really about what we did in these boxes. It is the what. The more powerful was the how we did it. We set up a schedule and we said, okay, whatever we are going to do, let's do it in a collaborative manner. Let's ask the segments, let's ask the divisions, let's ask the employees, what do they want? What do they need? And what could we provide? So what we did, when we started with the first results that we had as a minimum viable product. We went out, took feedback, and started an iterative process. And you can see all the inner departments that we approached and asked and involved in in further developing the tools that we needed and the processes that we were thinking about. We did it starting with the management level because we wanted to do it top down to give all the managers a chance to be part of it, and then further on be a multiplicator for their employees. Within a very narrow process and pilot part, we did something along the we call it talent management cycle, which means you have certain things to do within a year. I think most of you will be familiar with it. The EDAG was not. So when we said, if we talk about development, it would be a good idea to deal with performance and potential, which the leadership people were obliged to do. Okay, but how do I have to do it? We have certain tools for you. We're using the 9-box. I think you know the 9-box. And we said we have 2 graphs, performance and potential, and we'll define it with you. You will be part of the project, and then we will have information about both potential and performance. And then you, as a manager, will be part of a talent conference, and you will talk about your employees while other managers will be part of the process and discussions. What? I am obliged to assess my employee and I really need to discuss with other managers what I think about my employees? Wait a minute. This doesn't go along with transparency. This doesn't go along with hierarchical thinking. And to be honest, I want to be the one to decide whether my employees are good or not. Nobody else should. We call it the goldfish. Some managers don't want to be their goldfish to be seen. And we faced another thing. There are managers who paint their goldfish black to make them invisible for other managers. So what we did is not only we asked them to assess their employees, we said we will have people reviews, talent conferences, which I moderated mainly, and where it was all about sharing information, approaching how is leadership displayed in the company. What is leadership? How do we deal with potential? How do we deal with certain strange situations when, for example, an employee says, I don't want to go to Tokyo as part of a project. Yeah, once you don't go to Tokyo, here's the door. Now, what if that employee has just become a mother or a father or just built a house, or the father or the mother might be ill and it wants to care for it. So completely different approach, and that is the how we did it. We were asking these questions. What do you know about your employees? She's coming 9 o'clock in the morning, leaving like 5 o'clock, sometimes 9 o'clock in the evening, and she's doing good work. And what else? 90% at the customer. Good quote. Yeah, and what else? I don't know. I don't see her too often. How often do you see her? Maybe 5 days? A month? No, a year. So imagine what that means in terms of leadership. And I think it is a good idea if you go to a leadership or a talent conference and talk about your employee, you should have some clue about she or her or what he is doing. What are the ideas and the motives and the aspirations? Okay, so we did it, and we said you will have job descriptions that we were working on. You will have competencies. We set up a competency model with future competencies that will help the company to grow and be bigger. You will bring these results from the people review with added information about your employees from the other managers back to the annual appraisal. And that will start a dialogue with your employee, which was completely new. Okay, we did it with, I think there was 40 managers and something like 200 employees. Pardon me. And they had their annual appraisal. They might have an optional update talk because within the year things change. And then this circle will start along for the second time. And we'll start the second run in November of this year. But this just was a pilot. We said within the pilot you gather information and you will need and use that information for the first real annual appraisal as of this year. So we had this pilot and we guided all the superiors and leadership people through that process. We had training for all those people within how is a people review running, how do we approach performance, how do we approach and perform within a people review. We had videos which my team also did. So we did the videos ourselves. We became visible within the company. And you can imagine my team themselves, they were going through the transformation process as well. Once I asked them about their opinion, everybody was looking at me. So what do you want? And I said, I want to hear your thoughts. You are the one experienced within the company, not me. I'm just asking questions. And they came to me and said, I have a problem, solve it for me. And I said, okay, what is your advice? How do you see that problem? What would you do if you were me? And I faced all that cultural problems within the microcosmos of my team. And then, after a while, they really did those videos. Imagine they were filmed and all the managers within the company saw my team doing those videos. Who's that? I never ever saw her before. Well, she's working with us for 20 years. She's in the development department. You don't know her? No. So we became visible as HR as well, and we started to move from being an administrative partner to being a consultant. And that was the funny thing. Out of that pilot, those managers were calling my team. Not really. They were calling me first, and I said, don't call me. I'm not the expert. The expert is Sandra. The expert is Nadine. Call her. You really want to call her? Yes. Call her, not me. So we did all the training, we had a timetable, and as I said before, it surely for sure was important what we did, but most important was how we did it. Because we included all the employees, we had open sessions, we had a blog, we had within the internet, we had sites where you could read all the stuff that we were doing with all the content we were producing, and we asked them to give feedback. And out of the pilot, we once received an invitation for a 5-hour session to provide feedback to us. And I need to say, we had feedback sessions before with all the managers. But once I received a call and somebody said, hey, Christian, we did some feedback and we want to share it with you. And we said, but we already had feedback sessions. Yeah, but we learned from it. We did it. And we gained momentum and speed. And we want to share it with you. Okay, perfect. So we integrated and we really we made it their project. Yeah? So we did it transparently. We didn't only ask for ideas, but we also considered their concerns. We iteratively adjusted, for example, the annual appraisal. We adjusted the talent conferences. Everything was in a process, and I like what Max said. It started off as a project, and it became a process. And the people also perceived that as a process, and they learned to provide information and to pay in to that process. So what we did is we witnessed feedback that increased, and we received feedback, and we gave feedback ourselves as well. So what we did, we mainly opened the box, yeah, and by that we were part of a cultural transformation. Collaboration started heavily. Feedback increased massively, and participation was visibly done, which meant all of a sudden we were told stories about employees working for Audi, and they told us, last year my manager was there, and he asked me, how's everything going? Do you need my support? Do you need my help? How's private life going? Is there any idea of maybe building a house or stuff like that? And I remembered, these are the questions that I asked them. And the kind of learned or at least listened. So this project as such for sure had an impact on structure and processes and all that stuff. But the most important thing is we kind of mobilized our employees to become part of the company, to take ownership. And that is the most precious gift that we had. And they still are part of the process. And we have to like tell some of the people, don't go too fast, slow down. But keep in contact with us as we will with you. Your expectations will be high, but give us time. We want to do things right. It's not about speed, it's about doing things the way they fit to our company. And the other information I need to give is that the board changed from 2019 to 2020. 2 of the 3 members changed. They left, and their management approaches differently. They are listening as well, so they are mentors for all that things that we are doing, and that is very, very good. One example is our CFO was guest at a management meeting, and he asked me, Christian, how shall we do it? Shall we collect questions, and then when I be the guest, I'll answer all the questions? And I said, no, Holger, no preparation at all. If you ask me, you just be part of the round table, and everybody ask whatever they want to ask. And you are going to answer whatever you want to answer. But be approachable, be authentic, and be brave and bold enough to be authentic. And that made that whole project and the cultural transformation more precious and wertvoll. Precious. Wow. Okay. Okay. And the other challenge I seem to have managed. 2 more minutes to go, and I'm done with my presentation. And feel free to ask me now or at the round table. I learned we have a round table after that. Thank you.